Yo, what's poppin'? So I'm here with power rankings because it's Monday, so power ranking time. So above me is the power rankings from just after the kickoff clash, after the tournament happened. And the East is easy because there were no matches, so it's the same as last time I did them. Easily. But the West had a lot of matches. Every team played 2 matches actually. So coming at number 13, the Vancouver Titans. Now Vancouver played a better game than expected against the Gladiators in a 3-0. And then they got absolutely demolished by Houston, where I did expect more of them. I thought they maybe could take a map off of Houston at least, but Houston just were much better and just decimated them pretty much. So I don't know if you want to put that to they're better than the Gladiators. Not going to do that personally, but for sure, Vancouver cannot come out of the bottom. Next up is the New York Excelsior. Now, this team did play Paris. They lost to Paris in 5, and then they played a 3-1 against Washington. That was pretty uninspiring overall. They're basically only winning off of Flora and Yaki doing good. Flora has stepped up, I think, and played better, so that's good for him. Kellen had a good map against Paris. He had a good map, I thought, but I'm still not loving it. And Melbourne Game Gym. Double flex support is alright, but it's not as good for them as I thought it'd be. Melbourne kind of like really disappointing me this season, to be honest. I don't know. Not great. I did think they would be better actually, but they just stayed awful. And now the Paris Eternal. Paris has gotten better with Dove. I don't know if he's playing better than Glister was. I think Glister was playing better, but as a team, they're playing better with Dove. Now that could be for a number of reasons. They could have just gotten better. Vestola looks spectacular. I love this team with Vestola in. He is doing a lot of work on the Sigma. Big fan. And Paris could see themselves moving up realistically. I think the Midseason Madness tournament is out of their reach. I think it's out of all of these bottom 3 teams' reach. It's a far off dream. But they're just playing to not be in the to get into the play-ins, because the bottom 3 do not qualify for play-ins at the end of the season. So they're just going to try and claw their way out of that. We'll see what happens. It's looking unlikely so far, but they are improving. So we'll see. And they do genuinely have a good Sigma comp, I think. Moving on to number, what is this, 10? Yeah, it's just Toronto Defiant. Toronto look awful. They're playing Winston, which no other team is really doing. They're playing the Echo, which Finale's Echo is very underwhelming. I am not a huge fan at all. I think his Tracer is much better, and I'd much prefer them to just play it. Hisu is doing a lot on Sombra or Sojourn when he does play it, but it doesn't matter if he's doing a lot on Sombra if the rest of the team is doing air. And for that reason, despite his Sombra actually looking good, and I'm not upset about him on Sombra, I'm upset that the team sucks with him on Sombra. Or just sucks in general, because he's also doing very well on Sojourn, but he's not playing as much, so he can't carry as hard, because Sojourn does carry harder than Sombra. That is real. I'm also pretty disappointed with Twilight, and Chorong has played well, actually. I think Chorong's played well, but the whole team is just underperforming, and I understand, they just changed coaches, but just spamming Winston because you can seems awful. They definitely cannot do that. They have to play ball. They have to, or they will lose. They play Washington next week. They have to, if they come out on Winston, it's definitely just a stage for them. Like, they're not going to make it into the midseason madness. And I don't know. Next up, the Boston Uprising. So Boston take 2 maps off of Atlanta in a 3-2, and then they get rolled by Shock. And the thing about that 3-2, yeah, they take 2 maps, and they do look kind of good on the Sigma. Atlanta more looked weak than Boston looked good on those maps. Like, Atlanta kind of trolled them. I'm not discrediting Boston on this map, because they did play well, and Punk did look good, and they play much better with Punk than Itzel. But I don't know. I feel like if they play that series again, like right now, 0% chance that Atlanta will drop a map, or not 0, but I doubt Boston would get 2 maps. Because against Shock, it wasn't really there. There were some moments, but there was a lot of C9s. There was a lot of miscommunications. and it just wasn't fully there. Victoria and Valentine are doing their thing, but neither of them are like a top DPS, right? They're just kind of chilling, and they're being consistent, but they're consistently like mid, really. Like you know what you're gonna get with them, but they're probably not gonna just like take over matches. They'll win you some fights, but they're not going to take over a match. They're not even like NYXL. Flora and Yaki could take over a map. It's not the same with Victoria Valentine, and I think that kind of consistently will put them down in the bottom 5. Regardless, because Punk played well. Punk was doing well, and Crimzo was playing well, but it's not enough to get them into the real mid teams. I guess you can call I can guess you could put them in the mid teams, but I think they're like a step below right now at least. Number, what is this? 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Number 8, the Washington Justice. So Washington, they beat New York 3-1, but it was a very sad series. And then what do? They lose to they lose to Houston 3-2, right? That 3-2 was very interesting. Kind of keeping Houston down, not really dragging them up at all. But that like, I don't know. Washington, it's just Washington, man. I hate this team. They're subbing out Happy. They're playing Assassin Decay for zero reason, really. And we saw Assassin play Widowmaker. You literally have Happy on your team, one of the best hit scans in the league. And he's rotting away on your bench on some maps, and you're putting Assassin to play Widowmaker on the Kefri angle. Just leave Happy in all the time. He's literally your best player. They get Vigilante back next week. That might help them, but Krillin has been playing lights out. You cannot blame this on Krillin. Krillin might just take his spot. Like, everyone thought it was Vigilante. No, it's been Krillin all day. Yeah, maybe Vigilante will help them play double flex support if they opt to do that. But I don't know. We'll see. I also hate this team's look on Mag still. Their dive is awful. Their Kalios is better, but they're still super passive and will give up entire points basically and turn like 3 fight points into like 1. It's truly a little questionable. They're so passive. And that's probably just a result of Supreme coaching for all these years, because they've been passive all these years. The one commonality every year is they have Supreme on the bench, and it's a miracle that boy still has a job. I don't know. It's Washington. I hate Washington. I almost trolled my future ranking. So Houston Outlaws coming in at number, what is this, 8? 7. Houston's at 7. So Houston, they lose to Florida 3-2, and then they beat Washington 3-2. So they're kind of in like peak mid, right? Or no, they don't lose to Florida at all. That's just a lie. They don't lose to Florida. They don't play Florida. They beat, they roll Titans. I said that earlier. They roll Titans, and they beat Washington 3-2. So rolling Titans, whatever. It looks bad if you don't roll the Titans, really. Beating Washington 3-2 kind of looks bad, then it looks better, because I feel like Washington is always going to be a team that's like, well, Washington, we are going to frag out and you are going to cry, and they almost lose that. I do like what they're doing. I think Dante looks very good in this meta, because his Doomfist is more calculated now. It's methodical. It's like Hawk's Doomfist, but it's a little better, I think. I like Dante Doom a lot. Maybe not better, but there's more looks to it. Like, he's playing it more. So by default, he has to have more like adaptations to what's happening. So maybe it's not better, but it is more flexible by default, because he can't flex characters, so he has to flex his playstyle, right? I think it's been a good look. I think their Piggy is alright. He's a very good Sigma, right? But this team really does strive off of Dante Doomfist. And Dante's come in even to play the Tracer sometimes and take out Pelican. I'm not sure about that one. I'd probably leave Pelican in 24/7. Either take out Merit if you want, but Merit's played very well. This whole team's played very well. The double flex support looks very good for them, but they're missing a little bit of something, just to tighten up their game a little bit in this meta, and they will be a good team. I think they will still ride or die on the Doomfist, which is a problem whenever you start to go against like your Shocks or Gladiators, your Reigns, teams like those. But for the mid-table teams, it's a very good strategy, and they could like move up for sure. It's just that other teams have looked better than them, just a little bit, or have had better results at least. Uh, but I think Houston are very salty. And this is like mid, like this is like dead middle. But I think there's a pretty decent gap between them and Washington. Like I think this is where it really starts. I could put a tier gap in, but I don't like doing tier gaps. It's too difficult, too unnecessary. You know. Moving on to the Florida Mayhem. So Florida lose 3-2 to Spitfire and beat Defiant 3-1, but it's a pretty damn convincing 3-1. So Hydron playing crazy. Checkmate's playing all right. It's been the same, but Checkmate's not the star of this team. I thought someone's flexibility was good, but I'm not sold on his actual like potential on those characters. Like his Sigma looks all right, his ball looks all right, but I think for this team to go higher than what they are right now, they need to be better than all right. They need to be like great. They need to be like solid. And especially when the flexibility isn't as potent like in the maps. Because last stage rather, we saw the flexibility be a lot more impactful because you would be switching outcomes more in the maps. This time it's more like, oh, we're playing Sigma on this map. Oh, we're playing Ball on this map. Some teams break out a rush for a point or two. Whatever. The flexibility is good and it's nice to have, but unless you truly utilize it, it's kind of wasted potential. And if his characters aren't like that strong, like his ball was like not that strong, right? I was very uninspired by a lot of the ball gameplay this season or this stage so far. I don't know. And teams with good balls and that utilize them well will excel compared to teams that don't. And I don't know if Florida. I don't know. I wasn't sold on it. Rupel had a rough match against London, but he played better against Defiant, and that's just normal, right? You're a rookie. It's your first match. And Sermajet on the Lucio against Defiant was actually good. Like it was actually impressive. He was just like playing Sermajet on Lucio, but it was good to watch. Whenever I wasn't crying because Defiant were getting rolled, but it was nice. So Florida, pretty strong team. We'll see what happens if Exy's still like in a random hotel, so he'll actually join the team soon. I think Hydron should still play over him. Because Hydron has been like maybe one of the best Sojourns. Like there's been like Kai and like Hydron and like Sparker probably. There's probably some more that you can name, but those are the first ones that come to mind for me because I think they've been lights out. Moving on to number 5, we have the London Spitfire. So London really break out of their shell, right? I said this in my preview with them. I could see a 6-0 stage. I could see a 5-1 stage. And I think the vision's real. The vision is real because I was like, they could be Florida, they could be Toronto. I did pred Florida to beat them because I was like, oh, come on, Florida. But because whenever I heard there was ball gameplay, I thought that London were in trouble. But they are London Spitfire. They find ways around it. Their Sigma looks good. They're now a 2-trick team. That's crazy good because Hottie Ryan and Poco Sigma / Poco Diva when he has to. They were both really good. They were both pretty solid, and this team has such good synergy. Is the biggest thing. They're all on the same page, and they have star potential. Like Shax maybe didn't impress as much as he could actually have in the past, but give him some more playtime in this season, and he'll be solid. Sparker has been playing lights out the entire year. You still see Backbone making big performances on the May, and Landon on Zen is genuinely very impressive. Like Landon Zen has been nuts. It's been lights out. Like he's turned fights entirely on by himself. I remember Toronto used a ton of ults. They were down, or London was down a lot, and Landon just gets a 3K. It was nuts, and I didn't think they had that. I didn't think they had that kind of potential on their backline like that. But London, like before, I thought last stage their backline was maybe a little iffy at times. This stage, you can't make that argument. They're so good. So what is their weakness? Maybe it's just flexibility, but they have 2 comps now, so you gotta watch out. So number 4, it's gonna be the Dallas Fuel. So Dallas have a pretty bad showing, right? They get 3-0'd by Atlanta and Shock, and a lot of people are probably gonna have them lower than this because they did look really bad, and they were playing some people on characters that maybe they shouldn't be playing on. And maybe Sparkle didn't play as much as they should have against the Shock and things like that. But I'm not convinced to send them down to like the Washington Justice level because they lose to teams number 3 and 4 for my last power rankings, and currently 2 and 3, not respectively. Now, if they lose again to someone else, I'll put them down more. But I'm not like, yeah, they look pretty bad. But Dallas is probably the team hurt the most by this meta swap because what they were one-tricking, what they were mastering, they had a mastery of what they were scrimming, just got demolished. Like, you can't run the Zarya. The only thing that ran the Zarya was Vancouver Titans for control center against Gladiators, and they got rolled. So I'm not convinced I'm putting Dallas all the way down. Yes, it is how I currently feel about the teams, but that's too much. If it was just week by week, it'd be too much like based on the week's results. Like, it is based on the week's results, but I can't ignore the kickoff clash, right? They still came second. I can't ignore that. It's not gone. It is less impactful because of how the meta swap works, but I can't put them below London. Do I think London would beat them if they played next week? Maybe, probably, but I might also just pred Dallas because I think they'll come back. They're Dallas, right? They always find a comp that works for them. They master it, and they'll run, and they'll run it, and they'll win. I wouldn't count them out just yet. It's the Dallas fuel. Like, come on. I understand if people have them below like Houston. I wouldn't put them much lower. I don't think I'd put them below Houston. That's as far as I would ever drop them. And they lost to 2 of the top 3 teams. Who's like London might have got 3-0'd by those 2 teams too. Who like maybe they're London tier. You just don't know. You just don't know. And yeah, okay, well, Atlanta lost to the Boston. Whatever, man. So coming up on number 3, we have the Atlanta reign. So Atlanta below the Shock is partially due to those Boston losses because Shock did play the same teams and just 3-0'd both of them. But I think Atlanta do look a little more shaky on the Sigma, and I don't know. They're just a little worse than Shock. That's all it comes down to. They do lose those to Boston. They do kind of fumble their bag. They almost get reverse swept, I guess you could call it, but not really because they were dominant when they won. It's just like it's standard Atlanta rain tomfoolery. It just happens, you know, and I can't ignore it. It's real. It happened. And Shock, it didn't happen with Shock. And Proper was going crazy. Proper was crazy. Kai was crazy on Atlanta. They're both very good teams. They're both very close. Neck and neck, probably. UV, OG, and this whole team is just star power. And if their weakness is Hawk on Sigma, then they're a good ass team because Hawk on Sigma is good, right? It's not even Hawk on Sigma. It's just like as a team, they just didn't have as good as a handle on the Sigma comp, I guess. I don't know. But now I'm just going to get rid of this because the last 2 are there. We have the Shock and the Gladiators. Now the Gladiators, yeah, they play a close match against Vancouver. Yeah, they have a not a close match. It's a 3-0, and the 3-0 Paris too. But from what I've heard, there's some sickness going on in the organization. Maybe that's why Space didn't play, because Space didn't come in for Circuit Royale. So if he's sick, that's a huge difference because that Circuit Royale was kind of shaky. And I'm not going to put them down because they're 3-0 teams. Sure, they're the bottom teams, but they don't control the schedule, right? They might have 3-0'd the Boston Uprising. Who knows, right? And I'm not going to lower their power rankings because they're sick right now. Because next week, they're probably not sick, right? I don't know. I think... Could you say that Shock played a more dominant game? Yeah, but they don't ask how, they ask how many. And for the Gladiators and the Shock, it's both 6 map wins and 0 map losses, right? I don't know. You can't fault the Gladiator. Oh, they didn't 3-0 well enough. What? 3-0'd, bro. Calm down. I see the argument for Shock above Gladiators. Not gonna do it. I don't know. They're the Gladiators. They won. What more do you ask from them? You should have 4-0'd in 3 maps. Like, come on, man. That's gonna be it for me. Have yourself a good one. Thank you so much for watching, and comment down below how wrong my power rankings are. Go ahead. So yeah, have a good one.